GamingBolt presents 15 things you need to know before you buy Final Fantasy XV Windows Edition. Final Fantasy XV launched on consoles in 2016 after a 10-year wait, finally giving the masses the chance to play the long-awaited game. But the PC audiences have had to wait just a little longer. That wait is almost over though. Final Fantasy XV Windows Edition is almost upon us, and it's making some pretty major improvements over the core game to deliver what is looking like the definitive version of the JRPG. In this feature, we're going to take a look at 15 major talking points about the upcoming PC port. Without further ado, let's jump right in. All DLC included. Square Enix have done a pretty great job of supporting Final Fantasy XV with continued post-launch content, and the good news is that the Windows Edition will be launching with all of that DLC included. This will include everything from weapons, items, and regalia skins to the 3 main DLC episodes focusing on each of the 3 main party members: Episode Gladiolus, Episode Prompto, and Episode Ignis. Online co-op included. Of course, the Comrades expansion pack is also another one of Final Fantasy XV's major DLCs, and that's going to be included in the Windows Edition at launch as well. The Comrades DLC introduces online co-op to the game, letting you explore the world of Eos with your friends, tackling quests and slaying monsters and enemies at your pleasure. If you think it sounds excellent, well, you're right, it really does. First-person mode. First-person modes have become a bit of a novelty in games these days. Grand Theft Auto V's current-gen release, for instance, added a first-person mode to its game, and it was a great new addition. Surprisingly, Final Fantasy XV Windows Edition will also have a first-person mode, though it remains to be seen just exactly how it will work out, given the kind of game that it is. Things such as driving and exploration will surely benefit from it, but we're curious to see how the new perspective handles the game's fast-paced combat. Mod support. And of course, what's a PC game without proper mod support, especially if the game is an open world one? Final Fantasy XV on the PC will indeed include mod support, though Square Enix haven't yet announced whether this will be at launch or if it's something that will be added later on. The possibilities are still really exciting though. The world of Final Fantasy XV and everything that occupies it is almost begging for the kind of creative tinkering only mods can offer. Environments. Visual enhancements are among the most notable improvements we're looking forward to in the upcoming PC port, and courtesy of plenty of NVIDIA technologies, it's looking quite promising. NVIDIA Flow is going to add dynamic and combustible fluids, fires, and smoke, while turf effects will make for much more realistic-looking foliage. Additionally, XVAO is going to work to add more realistic-looking shadows and lighting effects. All in all, it's looking like the environments are going to look a lot more impressive. Character models. That's not it though. Visual enhancements will also make it so that in-game character models look a lot better than they did in the 2016 release. Hairworks tech will also make it so that characters' hair look a lot more dynamic and realistic than earlier, while furry and fluffy monsters and creatures in the open world will also look much better. Shadowworks, meanwhile, will add much more realistic-looking shadows to the game. For instance, characters will now cast shadows on each other, while these will also vary depending on the lighting in the surroundings. Capture moments. Finally, capture moments in Final Fantasy XV Windows Edition will have quite impressive capture moments thanks to new, added technologies, and we're not specifically talking about Prompto's knack for photography. GeForce Experience integration will pave the way for Ansel in-game 360-degree photos, while Shadowplay highlights will be working in the background to automatically capture your best in-game moments. Recommended system requirements. The real question, of course, is what kind of specifications your PC will need to be able to properly run Final Fantasy XV at 1920 by 1080. This is obviously going to be a very taxing game, so you're going to need a lot. Recommended system requirements include an Intel Core i7-3770 or AMD FX 8350 CPU, a RAM of 16GB, a 6GB GeForce GTX 1060 graphics card. Frame rate. To be honest, this is kind of a minimum expectation from a game's PC version, especially if it claims to be making the kind of impressive enhancements like Final Fantasy XV is. The Windows Edition will include support for 60 frames per second, though, of course, whether or not your machine can hit that depends on your system specifications. 60 FPS and 1920 by 1080 will require a GeForce GTX 1070, while 60 FPS and 2560 by 1440 will require a GeForce GTX 1080. HDR support. And what's a visual upgrade without HDR support? Final Fantasy XV Windows Edition will indeed include support for HDR10, though given the kind of improvements it's currently boasting of in other areas, that much is to be expected. However, system requirements for 4K HDR will be a bit on the steep side. We'll get to that in just a minute. Native 4K. Final Fantasy XV Windows Edition will include native 4K support. The system requirements if you're looking to run the game in native 4K will be quite demanding, requiring either the Intel Core i7-7700 or the AMD Ryzen 5 1600X CPU, and a GeForce GTX 1080 Ti graphics card. Interestingly enough, Final Fantasy XV on PC will also feature native support for 8K. 4K HDR specs. That's not it though. As far as the system requirements for 4K HDR for Final Fantasy XV on the PC go, you will require a seriously impressive machine. Some specs though look to be a little over the top. For instance, the hard disk space requirements are frankly staggering. 4K HDR system requirements demand hard disk space of 155 gigabytes. By comparison, minimum and recommended system specs for the game both cite a minimum HDD space of over 100 gigabytes. 4K HDR specs, Windows 10 only. But wait, there's more. Sure, you need a more powerful CPU, a beast of a graphics card, and a hell of a lot more space in your HDD to run Final Fantasy XV in native 4K with HDR, but there's very specific requirements for your OS as well. To be precise, your PC will need to be running on Windows 10, which means that Windows 7 or 8 won't be supported, though you can run the game on those as per minimum and recommended requirements. Additionally, your Windows 10 will also need to have the Fall Creators Update. 4K max settings. Final Fantasy XV Windows Edition really is going to be a visual beast. On max settings with native 4K, even if you have a GeForce GTX 1080 Ti graphics card, you will have to make some compromises. Some settings will have to be turned down, we're assuming frame rate for one will obviously take a hit. That said, we're still pretty sure that the increased pixel count will result in a version of the game that looks far beyond anything else we've seen thus far. Pre-order bonuses. You will, of course, get bonuses if you choose to pre-order Final Fantasy XV Windows Edition before it launches on March 6th, but these will vary depending on what portal you choose to make the pre-order. Pre-ordering the game from Steam, Origin, or the Windows Store will give you access to the Outfits Fashion Collection, decal selections for your Regalia's customizations, or the Attack Boosts Power-Up Pack, respectively. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.